Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
They say for every light in this world, there is a shadow waiting to reclaim it. We've been told what to believe, what to fear, and exactly where the boundaries of real end. But tonight, we're crossing those lines. From the whispers in the attic to the lights in the desert sky, and the entities that walk among us, we are stepping behind the veil. Transmitting from deep within the mountains of West Virginia, it's time to seek the truth. This is Let's Find Out with Diego. And now, here is your host, Diego the Podcaster.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest is an author, paranormal investigator, filmmaker, and a respected researcher who looks for the truth in the dark corners of coal mines and the whispers of local folklore. He bridges the gap between the documented past and the unexplained present. We're going to discuss a topic tonight that both of us have a lot of experience with, and we're going to be talking about shadow people. And these are my least favorite people. All this plus more. Please welcome back our good friend, Tony Felosi. Tony, my friend, welcome back to Let's Find Out.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you back here for sure. But I'll take that back. Shadow people are kind of my least favorite kind of people. And we're going to get into that. And I'm sure some people like having them around. I most certainly do not.
I don't either. They are the real deal folks, and I think that they feed off of the energy. When they terrorize people, that's what they're doing. They're feeding off that energy.
Yep. And they also talk to me in the middle of the night. They like to mimic voices, especially my wife's voice. And then now I've been getting, I will jumping way ahead, but I've been getting one that's talking to me in Spanish, which is the first time ever. I am bilingual, but mostly I've had English speaking ghosts, I'll call them, or spirits. But my other least favorite people, Tony, we were just talking about this, is I don't know about you or the rest of the world right now, especially here in the United States. The amount of telemarketing calls I am getting.
Yes.
And these are robocalls and then data center calls because you can hear them in the background. And I don't answer, go straight to voicemail, but they're clogging up my voicemail. So definitely, I think I like them more worse or least than the shadow
Right.
people.
Yeah, we like them less than shadow people.
Yes. And that's pretty bad. You gotta be a pretty bad person to be. I think I like shadow people now better. But anyway, I'm not gonna veer off what I was talking about earlier. So before we begin on this very interesting topic, because I think both of us, as I mentioned earlier, have a lot of experience with this. You investigating and talking to other people, also your own experiences. But since the last show, what have you been doing?
Well, been gearing up for the fall. We do a lot of ghost walks and stuff in the fall, and helping some other folks get set up with things like that. This is the 10th anniversary of my first ghost walk in Harlan County, so I'm really trying to do something special with it, and been doing a lot of research, giants, shadow people, just you name it, anything interesting, I'm there.
And with the walks around town that you're doing these tours, can you tell us a little bit about the locations that you go to and the stories that you tell?
Oh yeah, uh, we've had several giant skeletons found in Harlan County and in downtown Harlan. When Harlan first started out, it was called Mount Pleasant, and there's several documented cases through newspaper articles where that 8 foot plus skeletons have been found whenever they were laying the foundations for buildings there. So that's one of the things we talk about. We talk about shootouts, murders, feuds, and of course the paranormal.
And with these skeletons that were found,
Hmm.
um, are they more human looking skeletons
Yes,
or do they look like
yes,
more beastly?
no, human. Um, that gosh, I'm going to try before I get too old to do this. I want to get my hands on one of the skeletons, because I know there's still some of them in private collections around, you know. Um, there's a skull and jawbone that I've tracked down from the gentleman to his children. So I'm gonna contact his children here in the next month or so and see if they'll do an interview with me and if they have any of the artifacts. But one of the most documented cases was by when a gentleman named Green Eversole. Let's see, I forget his dadgummit. Mr. Eversole was grading off Green Adams Eversole was grading off a piece of property uh, to construct a building, and they didn't go down very deep, and they started finding artifacts. Then they started finding skeletons. One of the skeletons was 8 feet plus. They were very careful when they excavated it out. He kept it for years and displayed it and gave it to the University of Kentucky. I think. Hold on. Let's see. That's the mud glyphs. I thought maybe. There it is. Would you hand me that over there, please? That newspaper article. There you go. Very, very well documented case. This article, Sunday, June 26, 1949. But now the skeletons, that's just a rewrite or rehash of the article. The skeletons were found in the 30s. And I would like to, I'm going to contact a University of Kentucky and see if there's any documentation on that end. More than likely, they're going to tell me no, or it was sent to the Smithsonian. Then we all know what happens from there. But we have, documented evidence. We don't have the skeletons, but we have where the skeletons were found, and lots of witnesses and lots of people, talking about it back in the day that saw these large humans. And I don't know why they want to try to suppress that unless it messes up their narrative, historical narrative. But that's one of the big things I'm working on. And also, I know where some very possible mounds are, large mounds. I'm going to bring in some folks with some ground penetrating radar, see what we can find there. Then beyond that, just go with the paranormal and keep researching it. But now in the paranormal, what I'm trying to do is explain how that they're able to manifest that energy and use that energy to communicate. We've all caught tons of EVPs and things like that, and I'm not saying that EVPs are bad, but at what point do you say, well, there's something there, and then you start trying to put it together on how they're manipulating the energy. We talked a little bit last time about tides and stuff like that, and some of the mechanical movement of the earth that could help with generating enough energy to where, I hate to use the word portal, but now they come from somewhere. They either are here around us all the time and we just can't see them with the range of vision that we have, or else there's something whenever that the magnetic anomalies are right, and all these things fall into place that they're able to cross over and to communicate. So I'm more leaning toward how to explain these things, other than going, hey, I got EVP and that moved and I got it on camera, so it's all real. Well, that's all well and good, but how did it move that picture? How did it manifest? How is it able to tug your shirt? That's what I want to know.
And I think that's something we all would love answers to. And I think we all have our different opinions, but I think it's one of those that until you experience it yourself,
Right.
is a whole different type of research you're going to do an investigation. But I'm going to circle back real quick. We're talking about the bones and the mounds.
Sure. Hmm.
And then we're definitely get into the shadow people thing because there's a lot of I got a lot of questions.
Okay.
When you go out and explore, you find these mounds. First, these mounds, are they located in private property or state-owned property?
Private. Some of them are
All
on
right.
private. Most of them are on private property, and I'll tell you off air because what it is, you know how people are. If you say something on they run straight to it, and they found it, and they didn't, all that number.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly private, and some odd things that I found. Uh, they look like ceremonial sites because you have like small walls for like and or mounds, and they'll go like 16 feet or so. Then there'll be a break, and then another one goes 16 feet. Then they'll come off at an odd angle, and then they'll come, things like that. Also, as far as the ceremonial sites, I wish I'd sent you a photo of this. Is I may can the on here. Is they are these stone structures that are made, round stone structures, maybe 4 or 5 feet tall. They look like a well, old timey well, except they're built on bedrock, and there's no carbon in them where anything's been burned. So, and it looks a lot like some of the things that have been found in the New England area. But a gentleman by the name of Bud Brock found these in the early 1980s, and he shared photos with us and told us about it, how he found them. And he says um, about a quarter mile from where he found these structures, that there was a medicine wheel. He found a medicine wheel. Now I have photos. Let me do my thing right here, and I'll try to get you a photo. Let's go down here.
All right. And now, while
And
you're getting those photos, let me ask you these ceremonial
yes.
locations or the mounds. Do these predate Native American? Because it definitely predate Europeans arriving here.
Oh, Europeans. I think there's been natives here in Harlan for way longer than they say. And another fallacy is that they didn't migrate. You had everything here you would need to live and survive and thrive. Lots of water, lots of fish, lots of game. And back in the day, those days, you had huge chestnut trees, which provided tons of protein and calories and things like that. And then you had plenty of acorn trees, acorn trees. Try not to be too hillbilly-ish right there. Uh, and they would grind that into meal and things like that. So why would they migrate? Why? I mean, and then the encampments like Harlan, the city of Harlan is built on a old native site and burial ground. One of the streets is named Mound Street because all the Indian mounds that were there that was just basically pushed over and used for fill dirt to build the town.
That's unfortunate. Now, we can all get to the legality of these things, but everybody knows they're there. And does anybody have a problem with this?
Well, they don't do that anymore. They did back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, probably on up in the 50s, because I've heard tales of the guys that used to work for the city maintenance department, and they would be replacing a sidewalk, and they would just be replacing a section of it. And once they would dig down a little bit, they would find bones, and they would just lightly, and they would cover them back up, and then just pour they wouldn't disturb them, but they would find a ton of them and just cover them up with a layer of dirt and pour the concrete over it.
Wow. Now, with when areas when there's bones, and it's gonna sound like a silly question. When you do your investigations, you have your technology with you. Are
Mhm.
places more active when they have bones, or is it don't make any
I don't
difference?
know. I mean, some places are, some I wouldn't I wouldn't say so. Uh, some places there are because you've disturbed this burial site, uh, and then some places are not. But some of the least haunted places I've ever investigated are graveyards, and then they've been
Mhm.
some of the most haunted places I've investigated. It's just a hit and miss kind of thing. Let's see here. I think I found. I'll send you this one. I won't bore you with all of them, but there were several of these found coming at you.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead
So
and retrieve this pictures real quick, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the TCC Research Channel, home of Mysteries Unlimited TV, Let's Find Out with Diego, and the free documentary playlist. I'm Thomas Markle. Here on this channel, we explore Appalachian mysteries, cryptids, UFOs, folklore, and the paranormal. Every week, you'll find new episodes of Let's Find Out, bonus overdrive, live stream discussions, and original documentaries. We talk with authors, researchers, investigators, musicians, and people with real stories to tell. If you're into unexplained encounters, strange phenomenon, and deep dive conversations, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and join us. There's always something new to explore.
All right, we're back, and now I do have that picture. We're gonna bring it right up, and then go ahead
sure,
and walk us through what it is that you found here.
we have no clue. Um, we think it was there were several of them. They were found in a kind of a geometric pattern. There's no, of course, you're not going to store grain in those because the animals will eat it up. You're not going. They're not used for smelting or anything like that because there's no carbon inside. Now, if you look at kind of the bottom center rightish, you'll see an opening. Now, I know that a lot of times they would use put like little like tobacco or some sort of food particle, some sort of foods and things as a offering to their gods. And also they would do that if there was a cliff line that ran for a long time and or long ways and it had a split in it, they thought that was a doorway not only for them but to another realm that their gods passed back and forth through.
All right, and refresh my memory because unless you said it right in the very beginning,
Hmm.
where you don't have to tell me the exact location, but this is in Harlan or is it a surrounding area?
Surrounding area.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a pretty impressive structure, and it's still standing as of today, right? Nobody's messed with it or anything's been done to
As
it.
far as I know, unless somebody's logged it and knocked it down, but unfortunately, I don't know if he's still alive. But he was supposed to take us there and get us close, but he said, the way that the roads are now, he don't know if we can get close to it. And I'm like, we'll walk. We'll put a pack on. We'll drive as far as we can, and then we'll pack in. For something like that, I don't care to be gone for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it might just take you that long to find it because there might have been no marker on it. That's smart enough not to do that. You don't want to because then everybody will be there
Right.
disturbing the land, and then that thing won't
Exactly.
be there too much longer.
And
Yeah.
and I'll add this in. We do not disturb. If we find something, we don't disturb. We'll photograph it, measure things out. We don't disturb it. We don't rob graves. We don't, that's, you have to have some ethics in this business.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna go circle back again with the bones because
Mhm.
very interesting. I've heard things and read about when people find bones, especially those that are might be ancient or bones of giants or anything like that, to where usually we talk about, yeah, Smithsonian will take stuff and it winds up disappearing, and we can understand that. That's what happens. and sometimes we're just SOL when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
Some of them wind up on the black market,
Yes.
and people sell them, or same thing like with art. But I've heard of some sort of, this might be very interesting, and I'm going to try to choose my words carefully because I don't. This is not that kind of show
Mhm.
where sometimes these bones are ground up, made into potions for either for health or for, let's say, for
Aphrodisiac.
aphrodisiac. I would have never come up with that word. I know the word, but yes. So there's something to that, right?
Usually, I don't know about the human bones. I know the animal bones, that there is, especially like some of the, they say some of the bears, they do that too. That there's a big market for things like that, in the Asian countries. But I think that would be more of an Asian country thing than an American thing, north or south.
Yeah. You also say the same thing about oysters. They're pretty disgusting. There's nothing aphrodisiac about that. I don't know. It's just my opinion. But
Right.
anyway, I'm not a seafood kind of guy, but we're gonna move on before this turns into a far worse show than it's not supposed to be. But no, that's a very impressive with the structure I have right here on my right, and it's very well built. It's been standing there probably hundreds
Centuries,
of years, centuries.
centuries, absolutely. Um, as I said, Harlan County and the surrounding areas, there've been natives here for thousands of years. They did not migrate. Now I know that I'll probably get bashed, and I don't care, but you know, when you're on the ground, when your boots on the ground and you're looking at all these things, and and I have a background, a little bit of background, survival classes and stuff like that, nothing major, just the basics. But I'm looking around, I'm going, if winter was coming on, I had all this, I'm not going to try to walk the ridge lines south to where it's warmer and I might have to fight other people for the resources. That is, there's no logic in that at all. It's not like that. If you and I started migrating, we'll say we left Harlan County and we were going south, the odds are that along the way somebody is going to say, this is our land, you're not going to take our food, they're not going to come out and high five us and say, hey, we're all in this together, guys. That's that would be the reality of it. Because if you're taking their resources, they're going to look at it just like we would. You're taking food away from their family, their tribe, and that's not going to happen. Now they may trade with you, you know, but how long is it going to take you to walk to Georgia, we'll say, or someplace in Tennessee that's warmer, toward the southern Tennessee? So why would you do that? By the time you got there, and you carried this food with you, and you're living off the land, and you may get have to fight your way in or fight your way out. It makes no sense when you can stay right where we're living at, you know, and have everything you need: food, water, shelter, and you already have your religious sites built. So you don't build the religious sites, and just walk off and leave them. And well, the people might say, well, you're going to come, and I'm no expert on this. I'm just,
Mhm.
you know, just discussing it. But why? Why would you leave a place that has everything you need and migrate? And it wasn't a shared thing. It was like there was this agreement between all the tribes that nobody lived in Kentucky, and everybody shared this, uh, what is it, dark and bloody ground, or whatever the translation they say it is. But I don't believe that. And I think there was advanced cultures here for the time. I don't think that we're dealing, because the people that they find facing east, that was putting facing toward the rising sun. And there's a whole lot of things that are found that folks with they weren't cavemen, they weren't they were way more advanced, I think, than we were led to believe.
And then all of a sudden, just like any civilization, people just disappear. And
Yep.
then it comes in the new one and builds on top of that and builds on top of that. And this is how we get in
Exactly.
the same mess that we're in today. Now, with Harlan, because I know Harlan's rich with not only that kind of history, we're talking about folklore,
Yes.
paranormal, supernatural, and cryptids.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
And what is something about Harlan that is strictly a Harlan thing? Now, because I'm looking here in West Virginia, and I know certain states have similar things like Bigfoot or water, river monsters or lake beasts or things like that. But sometimes things are distinctly by regions. Like we have Mothman. That's our thing. And I know other states have a version of Mothman, but I think we got it coined pretty good. What is something that's strictly a Harlan thing?
I would say kind of there's nothing that's just particular to Harlan. I mean, we have Bigfoot sightings, Mothman sightings. I'm going to do an interview with a friend of mine that her family is in the next county over, but there was this Mothman type creature that lived in the area for years. And they got so used to it, it would try to scare them, and it never tried to harm anybody. But they called it the red-eyed booger, and so that's how common these were. So I'm going to sit down with with them sometime here in the next several months and get the whole story and try to get to interview a lot of the eyewitnesses. But that went on for several years, and just one day they're gone. Whether they died or they moved on or whatever. But we have that. We have the paranormal. Uh, you have Thunderbird sightings, um, ancient creature sightings. Um, I don't know whether that's time slips or what, but like this giant creature was sighted. It looked like a giant sloth. A prehistoric giant sloth is the closest thing we would equate it to. Then of course you have the paranormal, which we have tons of that. So as far as just any one thing that we're known for, we're known for it all.
So you could probably live 100 lifetimes and never get everything done.
No, no, you have everything from giants to uh, the white. We have everybody has a white lady ghost, a hitchhiker ghost. Well, we have that. We discovered the lady's name and when she was murdered and how she was murdered and where she was murdered at, and we surmised that she's walking the road trying to get back to her young child that was there when she was battered. She didn't die at that location. They took her to the hospital, which is at that time was in downtown Harlan, and she died a couple hours after that. But she was brutally beaten with an axe, a kindling axe, which would have been a short hatchet, so souped up hatchet. Um, and so that happened in June or July of 46, and the first documented sighting of her was in December of 46. And a friend of mine's grandfather was driving a taxi. He stops and picks up this young lady on the side of the road. Well, she looks a little bit disoriented, and she doesn't speak a lot. And he goes, "Young lady, where are you going to?" And she's just looking around, all confused, And I guess she just jumped around, so I'd probably be confused as well. And finally, she says, "I'm going to Verda." Verda, Kentucky was where she was murdered at. And her name was Marguerite Gilbert Colvin Craig. And No, Craig Gilbert Colvin. She was Gilbert when she was, or Colvin when she was murdered. She sometimes she's called the 6 week bride, this, that, and the other. But uh, back in those days, unless that you had a little bit of money, that you either rode a taxi or rode a bus to where that you were going to town and get groceries and you come back, or you bought them from the company store, you know. But whenever that she died in the hospital, we think that she's trying to get back to that 5-year-old that saw her bludgeoned to death, and she will appear in two different ways. If you usually just to men. If your intentions are good and you just want to help somebody out, she'll either just appear in the car or they'll stop and she'll get in and then they'll be talking to her and she'll just fade out, disappear. If you have nefarious uh, intentions toward her, we'll say, because she's in life was very supposed to be very pretty, and I have a firsthand account of this young man. He's passed on now, but this happened back in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, I believe in the 80s, and they were having a barbecue and drinking a little bit, and they ran out of something, and he was running to the store, and he seen this lady walking. So he pulls over and he says, "Hey, honey, what are you doing? We're back at the house and we're done. Would you like to go?" And she has walked up and put her hands on the edge of the door. And then she looks up at him and she turns her head, kind of like the Ring chick. But when her hair parts, when her hair goes to one side, it's like the day she was murdered. So he goes into a panic, obviously, and pulls out and gets back home, and he goes in. He's in a state of shock, and he's going, "She's dead, but she's walking. She's dead, but she's walking." And he's like losing his stuff, and they wrap him up in a blanket, and he goes into a fetal position. They're trying to keep him from going on into shock. And when he could find, and they thought he had accidentally hit someone on the way to the store, and they were in a ditch. So they go back and they don't see anything, couldn't find anything. And whenever he regains his senses, he tells the story to them. And when he went back, if he'd ever have to travel that direction again, he would wear a hat, pull it down over his eyes, and flip his collar up, and like a ghost is not going to know who you are. But I guess it made him feel better. But he never, from what I understand, he never saw her again after that. But there's been lots of sightings about from her, as far as like different, if you want to know something that we're kind of known for, that would be one of them. And you have several things like that. Sometimes obviously in UFOs, we have at times we'll have a lot of UFO activity, and oddly enough, when Bigfoot activity picks up, the UFO activity picks up.
Yeah, I've heard that several times now. Some people say it's pure coincidence, but if it keeps happening,
I don't.
maybe there.
It's a
Yeah.
pattern. I don't think it's um, coincidence. I don't know that they're. I got a little critter trying to dive bomb me.
Oh,
So, but the I don't know that they're right. Some people adhere to the thing that that they're related to the UFOs. I don't know. I mean, I truly don't. But all I can tell you is there is a pattern. When you have a lot of Bigfoot sightings, you have a lot of UFO sightings.
I was get them all riled up, trying to check out what's going on outside. Just
I
like
think
here, something happens here, the neighbors look out through the blinds, see what's going on. Maybe Bigfoot's one of those nosy neighbors types, but I know
Could
there's
be.
more to it. But that could be a whole different kind of show because we're talking about UFOs and Bigfoot. It's gonna be a long night, and
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
yeah,
that's more of a I know the stories and things like that, and I really enjoy researching. But now Thomas is a wealth of knowledge on things like that.
yeah. We're gonna try to get him back on, and we'll talk him into it. Get you both on it, and we're gonna have definitely like a
That'd be great.
roundtable discussion about these things.
Oh,
That'd be a
that would be great.
fantastic show. And well, let's get to speaking of terrifying, because that story about the hitchhiker,
Hmm.
terrifying, but equally as terrifying only because of how frequent it happens. My second to least favorite people, other than telemarketers, we established that in the beginning of the show.
Hmm.
And in fact, it just called as while we were on the phone. I should have put it on silent. Shadow people.
Yes,
And for me,
100% real.
oh, I agree with you because firsthand experience
Hmm.
and frequency. Now, before for me, it didn't happen as often. There was always gaps in years when I had my experiences until I moved to this house. It's more frequent. And when it stops with me, then it goes with my wife. It stops with her, comes back. It's like a ping pong back and forth. Here's the not so fun part. Fun to tell, but not fun to experience, mostly for Mrs. Diego, where she now has when she goes outside, does her gardening or any kind of yard work. She has to take her house keys with her because it doesn't matter what door she goes and leaves unlocked. She's been locked out a few times. So now she takes the keys with her. And she never locks the door when she goes outside.
Right.
I don't know. And we talked offline before. I think we were texting back and forth where this has happened to people that you know.
Oh yes, yes. Haunted object. A doll. We call her. Her name's Alice, and there was a little name tag pinned to her. So how come we know it's her name is Alice? And the how I ended up with Alice, and actually we on the YouTube channel, Haunted Harlan County on the I'm sorry, not YouTube, TikTok channel. You can, I think Alice was maybe the last one we did. Uh, people want to go see. It's I do a lot of shorts on TikTok. Um, but Alice was a mourning doll um, that was found in. Nobody will know where this is at, but in Harlan, we'll just say Harlan County, and found at yard sales. This is one lady went to an estate sale or yard sale, bought her. So that's not. It was period correct porcelain made with the sawdust and stuff, and so so it was period correct. And brought it home, and almost immediately they started having activity. And one of the activities was when she would go outside out of the front door, it would lock her out.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
So that's maybe they have a sense of humor, but they got pretty dark there too. That could be a whole nother show, like you're talking about. But it got dark. It got really dark, and ended up that I took her and I hit on this in the episode that I take her home, which you should never do. But I'm thinking, this is a great opportunity to study this, and so, which I believe the people that gave her to me, but uh, they I said, okay, let's see what you got, Alice. And we've done some EVP sessions with her, and we've got energy. Now, the odd thing about her was if you could run a K2 meter over at times, and we're talking about a 100-year-old doll, 80 to 100-year-old doll, you would get hits. Some sort of energy was coming off that doll. And I've seen that a couple times. The So my ex was she was real freaked out over the doll because she said it looked like it was watching her. The eyes were watching her wherever she went. And so she said, and nothing had happened for weeks, maybe a month. I had her there sitting on a bookcase. And she says, "You're nothing but an old doll." And in the bedroom adjoining where Alice was sitting, there was a big crash and a big home interior. I'm talking about one of the big home interior pictures. I had books stacked in front of it. I hadn't hung it yet. There's no way that anything you pushed that thing, nothing, it didn't slide. There's no way. Something picked it up, went over top of the books, went out 3.5 feet. Because I measured, I told her, don't touch anything. That's when the investigator kicked in. I said, don't touch anything. I'll be there in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever. And so slams it down, just and shatters it all to pieces. And and the pressure was so great, the downward pressure, it cut grooves in the chest. And I have photos of course, I have photos of all that. So when I was doing the measurements, I was doing the photos as well. So that these objects and these things can have a lot of something attached to them.
And it doesn't always have to be a human spirit either, right?
I'm sorry.
It's not always a human spirit that's attached to
Oh
objects.
no, I don't think it could have been a human spirit, but I don't think so. I don't know what was attached to the doll. And because whenever it was at the other location, one of the reasons they gave me the doll was a young child started having these nightmares, and I really don't want to say on air what it was. Pretty bad. It was trying to get the child to do things, and they said, "Mommy, this." So that's when they got rid of the doll. So there's no, I think that one was pretty dark, and then when that happened, I had I had to get rid of Alice. She had to find another home. But I do have a funny story, a not so terrifying story about Alice. Is what I did with her was I took her and we put her in a jar, big jar, and to display her so nobody would grab a hold of it and maybe rip the clothing or bags or something. So it was sitting in my office and sitting in the back of it. Nothing ever happened. I mean, she was there for weeks and weeks and weeks, maybe months. Nothing happened. Well, the lady that was working at the place that I worked at, cleaning the offices, she was a little on the nosy side, and so she says, and a buddy of mine and I had just done an interview with an individual on some things that was going on. As part of my day job, I've done some investigative stuff and things like that. No police work, but I'm just like illegal dumps and things like that. So, and whatever was affecting the county. And so we just had got through that. And so she says, what do you have that doll in a jar for? And so you don't ask like two older dudes that worked around Harlan County, especially around the mines and this, that, and the other. That's the wrong question to ask, because we're going to tell you something. It might not be the truth. But so we start making up this story. So, well, we have to keep the lid on her because we're not as young as we used to be, and she gets out, and we can't hardly chase her down and get her stuff back in that jar. And she says, "Really?" And then my buddy's got a big deep voice. He says, "Oh yeah." He says, "Last time," he said, "it took us 15 minutes to get her hemmed up in that courtroom, and we had to jump dog pile her and then do all this." I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to, believe that, right? And so we just got a big kick out of it. So Monday morning, I got a call from my boss, and he says, he's like a good dude, good guy, and he's very exasperated. He takes in a big deep breath and he goes, "Tony," I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you have a haunted demon doll in your office by chance?" And I go, well, I don't know about all that. I said, but I have an alleged haunted object. He goes, did you guys tell so-and-so that this dog gets up and runs around? I go, yeah, yeah. He goes, I said, how did you know that? He goes, well, her pastor called me and she went to church praying for him, asking him for protection against that doll in your office. And he says, Tony, she has to find a new place to live. Click. I said, okay, 10-4, sir. So that's the humorous part of it. But true story. True story. Who would have thought, right, that somebody would have believed that?
Well, it's on how you tell it to them, and how you present the story to them. Now, talking about strange things, because we're gonna go back to the
Mhm.
whole
Sure.
shadow people, and instead of me bringing up a lot of my stories, which one day I will, we're gonna have a conversation. I'll tell you all what's going on in this house.
Okay, great.
But what's been your experience so far with them? Is it during your investigations, or are there any in your home currently
Oh
right
yeah,
now?
yeah. I've all over. But before we get into that, let me ask you a quick question. What's the geology under you? What's the geology where you're sitting? Look at your geology. I will bet you have limestone or sandstone quartz, and you have water running close by you.
Well, it's West Virginia, so we're looking at boom. Two, we run on well water, and then this used to be an old apple farm, and that was cleared out about 30 some years ago, and then put up homes here. But it used to be an just a farm for days. It was all about apples.
Okay,
But
go to the USGS site. Look at the magnetic anomaly maps, and see if you fall in if where you're sitting you have elevated electromagnetism.
I wouldn't doubt that.
That could explain a lot. But okay, but I've my first shadow person, gosh, experience would have been probably whenever the videos, and then after that, which we started investigating that place, and I never saw. We could hear things, and we knew something was some type of energy was around, but we didn't see anything. But the first one I saw um, was at Portal 31 in Lynch, Kentucky. It's myself and the guy that runs that's over the place, Nick Sturger, who is a fantastic historian and has tons of great stories. If you want me to hit him up for you about the haunted mines, and so we're sitting there. It's wintertime. It's right around lunch, so me and my buddy is out. We're doing like checking on some complaints and things like that. So we go into Nick's, and we're sitting there, and it's no pun intended, it's dead. It's wintertime. The attraction shut down, so it sounds like somebody's jiggling a key in the door. And we look out, and there's no cars. Well, that's odd. Maybe they circle. So we're thinking that somebody that's supposed to be there is coming in. The doorknob shakes, and the doorknob, you can hear the door open and close,
Mm.
and footsteps. And it's a security door, but it has a glass panel in the upper part. It walks up and squares up to the window, looks dead at us. And my buddy and I look at each other, and Nick's behind us, and we're going, "Are you seeing this?" And then it just turns and jets out of sight, and I thought it went through a wall. And Nick says, "Shadow guy?" We go, "Yeah." He goes, "Saw him about 10 o'clock this morning." I said, "He went through the wall." He says, "No." He says he went through a door. And I said, "There's no door there, Nick." And so we go out and we move a cutout, and they have blocked up this door back in the 50s. So that was the first one I saw.
Interesting
Can we?
behavior with shadow people, especially talking
Yes.
about that cutout of that door.
Hmm.
And you thought it was through a wall, but it knew that there was a door there at a certain time, and it was boarded up. Now we're talking
Yes.
about an intelligence. It's not just a random shadow. We're not talking about,
No.
yeah.
No. This was definitely intelligent. And I guess the first. Now that's I've seen them. I caught them on film before with static cams and things like that. But that was the first one that I actually just saw walk in and look at you and walk out. But the first one that I caught on film was in the old Harlan County Jail, and on a static cam, we were doing an EVP session, and we actually were pushing some fog in there to try to silhouette, because we've been seeing these shadow. This had the shadow play, so I'm thinking, well, maybe if we put a little background to it, it'll silhouette itself. But this has been years and years ago. We didn't have the type of cameras we do now. We didn't, we're just getting kind of started. And I asked, could they? I may have the clip still someplace. Could you come up and walk in front of the camera? Okay. So on the EVP that we caught, plain as day, you heard, "Who's there?" And then this figure walks from the corner where it's really dark, comes out of the corner and walks across the cell block, across the way. I don't know if you've been in any of the old jails or anything. I'm sure you have, but you have your regular corridor where the cells are and the inmates are kept, and then you have over here where the guards. You'll have another partition of bars where the guards walk. And or that's how this one's laying out. And so it walks out of the corner, walks through the bars, across the corridor, across the hall, and straight into a cell. It's pixelated out a little bit, but we're like I said, we're just getting started, and my first paranormal camera with night shot and all that was like, I got it for like $50 at a Sony hybrid at a pawn shop. And then my Polaroid, do you remember the Polaroid lights that lasted for an hour? You used to have to charge up, and so we had 3 or 4 of the Polaroid lights, and so that's what we were working with at the time.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. The second one, I called it Bobby Mackey's, and I set up a static cam, and we're doing an EVP set. Now we're not up in the building that was just torn down. We were in the basement area type deal, where the alleged portal to hell or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what the portal to hell really is? A drain. It's
It
a
seems
drain.
like it seems appropriate place for it.
Yeah. It was a drain it was a slaughterhouse back in the early days, and it was a drain to go out into the Licking River. But anyways, so but now that was a pretty wild place there down in the basement, because there was stuff there was definitely. We didn't get anything up top. I mean, the Johanna stuff is not correct, and we won't. But this isn't about Mackey's, so we're doing an EVP session, and this shadow raises up from the floor and walks off. So that was my second, and that was, we caught that. And I may have the clip somewhere. The and things like that, and then whenever it really picked up was after we did the investigation at this residence, and it was like, I don't know whether they got your name and number or what, but man, it really picked up then. I mean, started seeing them at home, seeing them up at the mines. My buddies were seeing them. And I've not been. There was one place I lived, and I didn't know what had happened because I wasn't into the paranormal that heavy at the time. It was in the 90s. I had sleep paralysis, but I wasn't asleep. I mean, no way,
Mm.
shape, or form. It was like the ceiling came down and something. I was under a lot of pressure, but I couldn't move. And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking, maybe I didn't know what. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew I wasn't asleep. I did not see a shadow person, but I can tell you this: I dang sure was between terrified and crap in my pants because I could hear stuff
Yeah.
moving around. Um, but I know no other the big name paranormal guys have ever been scared like that. They would if they tell the truth they have been. Um, but I could hear stuff moving around, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move my head to look. All I could move was my eyes. So I didn't know what had happened, you know. Um, and I kind of wrote that off. And then as I got in more into the paranormal, I thought, well, maybe that was the experience I had. Then I started interviewing. My friends started coming forward. Now that we'll fast forward to the 2012-ish or so, 2000, a little maybe later, 2018, 17, 18. Um, they were coming forward with their stories. A lot of them were children when this happened. They were uh, same thing, sleep paralysis, but it's not. They weren't asleep, and they said the thing just come up. And I'm getting the same story from all these people, so I don't believe that it's just. I don't think that every time that somebody says I was paralyzed by a shadow person that it is, you know. But I believe that way more are true than not. And he said that this thing just come up he was sleeping on the couch. He was in his teens, early teens, and it comes up over the couch like this and hovers over him. And he was obviously he's terrified. And I think that they feed off that energy. That's why they terrify you. It would be like, maybe that's, I mean, we have to eat, but we have to take our energy in through food. And if they're an advanced being, I believe they are in a different realm and definitely advanced beings. I don't think that we are at the top of the food chain. That's your first mistake. We are not at the top of the food chain. Um, and I'm getting story after story after story after story. Then we'll go on 2020 or so, 2022 is whenever that I first was contacted by these homeowners, and they were living in a house. They were having tons and tons of shadow person activity. Now, the person that had the lady that had lived there before, her and her husband had built the home in the 50s. So her husband wasn't seeing these shadow people, but she was. And it would turn the lights on and off her car at night. It would talk. It was inside walls and would talk to her, uh, open and shut doors, just all sorts of stuff. But not the husband. So the husband ended up leaving her because he thought she lost her mind and he was in physical danger. And she started shooting into the walls when the voices. Oh yeah, when she would hear the voices, she would shoot into the walls. And then a buddy of mine lived beside of them. And this lady, before that happened, she was like good to the kids in the community, bake them apple pies and give them stuff and just a nice person. And so she throws the door open one day and she goes, "You the guys are what's causing it. You're the ones that's turning the lights and stuff on and off on my car. You're doing all this." And they were working on a vehicle. They had no idea what she was talking about. Then she whips out a pistol and starts shooting at them. And thankfully, nobody was hit. You know, they all dove behind a car, and she shot empty and went back in the house and slammed the door. And so they call her daughter and says, "Look, the police are on their way. We know she's been having some issues. If you'll come get her, we won't press charges. But you have to get her out of here. We don't want this to happen again." So the daughter came and got her, and she moved in with the daughter. And I don't know if it followed her or not. And she passed away, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Still living with her daughter. I mean, I think she went to, I'm not sure she went directly and lived with her daughter. They tried to get her some help, you know, because who's going to believe her, right? And then this couple moves, there's another couple moves in, or family moves in, and they start talking about seeing these things. And now this isn't in this isn't the current one I'm talking about. And they can't explain it, but they're not, it doesn't get really bad. They just see it, it rattles stuff, it does this. But now an interesting thing, they moved to Virginia from where they were in Kentucky, which is not very far. I'm going to not really name the town or anything or the streets, or but that whole stinking street is having activity. And we'll talk about that just in a minute, because I'm going back. They contacted me a month and a half ago, and the activity at there's 2 houses. There's one they're living in now, and the one where we caught the video footage where this has happened, where the lady lived. And so then they leave, and these folks get it. Well, the first night there, they started having activity. And which we've made the movie, so if anybody wants to know their names, they can go watch Shadow House 40 Years of Terror, which is on Tubi, Amazon, and all your other good streaming places. Shameless plug. And it was a ride for them. It about drove them insane. They ended up leaving, but it would do everything. It would run up to their bedroom door. They would hear heavy footfalls. It would run up to their bedroom door, rattle the door. They would be doing something, just sitting watching TV, and something random would happen. And then they would look around, and something would lean around the corner and look at them. Tons and tons and tons of things like that. And this is the house where that you have the security vids. Now the security vids, they're time stamped. Ain't no CGI crap going on. I tried to debunk it, and there's no way to debunk it because there's heavy curtains on the windows. And excuse me, and it was like they started using it as a storage place. It looked like kind of like a hoarder situation. But they went through just umpteen experiences, both man, woman, and they had small children. So they got out, they left. And the house that they moved into, it followed them. Something followed them, but it was only down the street. Stuff flying off the walls, voices, and they were hearing voices. And they said one interesting thing in one of the interviews that I did with them was they knew they were discussing them, but it was a low murmur, and they couldn't make out any of the words. So, but now this place, interestingly enough, limestone quartz, water, cave systems, mines, the whole bit. So I think that if we're going to try to find a common denominator, we look under the ground. I don't think necessarily the structure. I think, they pick a structure that they like, I guess. But I don't think it's the structure that draws them as much as it is the energy around that that allows them to, whatever you want, realm jump, whatever you want to call it. But now, Michio Kaku talks about the Kabbalah. Are you familiar with Michio Kaku? He's a
I am
theoretical,
not.
he's a theoretical physicist from New York University. Been on Art Bell a whole lot. He is either the originator or co-originator of the string theory and superstring theory, which is everything is related to vibration. You know, like a string on the instrument. Which I tend to agree with a whole lot. I think sound and vibration is a key to a lot of things. So Kaku is talking to Art Bell, and Art's asking him, hey, what do you think about this? He was talking about the Kabbalah. And Kaku goes into an explanation. He goes, they knew this 3,000 years ago. They knew something, that there were different realms 3,000 years, like the seraphim. I hope I'm not butchering that too bad. But that they just didn't know how to put it in today's verbiage, obviously. But he says they were talking about these different realms 3,000 years ago plus. And he says it is, and Art Bell says, is it possible? He goes, yes. He says there are at least, and I'll try to find that link to that old show and send to, but look it up. It's real interesting, very interesting. He says there's at least as many as 10 and maybe more, maybe an infinite number. So how many, on the tree of life, how many different realms does it show? 10, 8 or 10. So coincidence? Could be. Or it could be they're explaining how these entities, how they interact with us. They're not of this world, so to speak, but they are. They're just it's like a radio dial. We're on 105.1 and they might be on 105.3, but they're able to, with their energy beings, they're able to cross, now, is that a great description of it? No, but that's the only thing I can figure that makes sense, is that they're interdimensional beings, and I think UFOs, a lot of stuff is interdimensional.
But it does make sense in a sense. It's kind of like when NASA or I would say SpaceX, when they're getting ready to launch a rocket or put something in space, there has to be a window of opportunity in order for that rocket to make it out of the atmosphere. They can just willy-nilly just launch something and go into space. There has to be a window
Yes,
where you
correct.
can. If it's not the weather, it's the atmosphere. It's got to be something. I'm figuring is they'll decide when to, we'll say, portal jump or whatever jump dimensions. When everything's lined up correctly, then they can cross to the door. Then the door's open, they can move in, and then they leave before the door closes. Maybe it's something to that.
I think
Same thing with the
something like
frequency.
that.
Yeah.
I do. I think, and I think they can. I think they can stay here a while. I think that they're not. I think they can cross back, but I think that their other dimension is not across the galaxy. I think it's here. I think that we are living. Just because we can't see it does not mean it does not exist right beside of you. So our range, I forget the exact not dimensions, but you can only see in certain spectrums. Okay, animals can see a bit more. And then you got, who's to say that, you're an interdimensional being, that you're an energy being? Who's to say that you can't? I mean, you can, without a doubt, do a lot more things than someone with a physical body.
Right.
I
And
know
I
that
think it's
sounds.
when technology might get advanced enough where we might be able to start seeing dimensions. It's just a matter of time.
There you go. It's just science. I think that it's not really that woo woo, so to speak. It's just science that's not explained yet. Imagine we bring somebody from random person from the year 1700, and we take them into a hospital, or we put them on a plane. They're going to think it's magic. There's this. This can't be. This can't be. Well, yes, it can. So we need to keep a little bit more open mind and think of it more along those terms as science that's not been explained, and start going at it from that angle instead of just, we caught a EVP, we heard a bump. There's a difference between paranormal enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. And I don't have anything against paranormal enthusiasts. I know they're good folks, but they're there for the experience. They're there. They want to hear something. They want to see something. And we all do. But I want to be able to explain how. How is it able to do this?
I mean, that's very important part of the work. And also, in order for people to accept certain thing, the formula has to be correct. And I think, in my opinion, when people stop acting in public and they're in private and
Right.
their deepest thoughts and they're there by themselves and they hear something, there's always that maybe, no matter where you're coming from. And then all it takes is that maybe, and then maybe you'll start maybe accepting some, I'll call them theories or opinions from anybody else. But I think everybody believes to a certain amount, but the truth is when you're by yourself and your thoughts,
Mhm.
that's when things starts swirling by. And, and then it wouldn't be awesome if we didn't get into the next thing. We're talking about going back to this story about the lady who started shooting everybody up.
Mhm.
And because a lot of activities were going on not only with her, but in the street, certain different people that lived in these in town,
Correct.
right?
Correct. They re-
Where I'm sorry, go ahead.
they like I said, they reached out about 6 weeks ago, and the lady that's next door is having experiences. Some more folks on the streets had experiences, and I think where the film came out, the episode came out. Uh, a lot of times that will bring people forward. They're going, I thought I was going crazy, and I seen you guys talking about it. I'm having the same thing. This is happening. This is happening. Um, so in the next month or so, I'm hoping to get interviews with the lady that's having issues now. She's I can't recall whether she's already given us permission, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get permission to investigate that location as well and try to tie this together. Because it's become a very interesting study, and there's been times that now one of the craziest shadow people. I'm going to jump just a little bit. Haunted Discoveries. I got the had privilege of working with them on 3 or 4 episodes, different seasons, and we were at a place that same type of geology, same type of this. You had full bodied apparitions, you had alleged Bigfoot sightings, blah blah blah. And this is on camera. This is on film. And another person about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I got a text about say, hey, did that thing that they initially seen, was it about 7 or 8 foot tall and had red eyes? And then I said, yeah. Now that part's not on camera, but what is on camera is okay. Somebody sees this big, I don't want to call it a Bigfoot, but a creature, uh, and that it walks over to the edge of the road. There's a dirt road. There's like structure one, cabin two, and you have a pond, and you have all this other stuff. And it walks. A shapeshifter is what it ended up being. Is what I think it is. And it was showing off. It was like having a big time. Um, walks up to the edge of the road and shifts down into like a little gnome-like creature, maybe 3 foot tall, 3.5 foot tall or so. And it has a little hump on its, and this, I mean, man, you can see this stuff on film, plain as day. And it starts dragging its foot like it's crippled up. It goes over to the, it covers 10 feet, 8 or 10 feet across the road. And then it goes into a shadow person about 6 foot tall, perfect silhouette. Shadow person finishes walking across the road, walks up steps to a landing, walks to the landing to the entryway, walks through the door. And you're talking about a lot of experienced investigators there. I mean, none of them guys are bad. They're all very good, very analytical. The film crew was really good. I mean, they lost their funding, but Brandon Alves, Mustafa Gadalori, Kevin Oddie, Craig Owens, and Harry Kluwer, top shelf. And so this thing goes through the door, and we start having equipment problems. We're up at a graveyard shooting some thermal, and our thermal starts going wonky. So I've radioed down. I said, "Hey, what was it that you did while when we first got this going? We're having some issues. I'm going to try that." And they come over the radio and it says, "Hey, man, we're going to have to get back to you. Something just went down." And like panicked. Super unusual for this bunch. And so that was a creepy, crazy. Who's to say the shadow people can't shapeshift? I've seen too, as wild as it sounds, a rat that you could see through. And there's different types of shadow folks. You have the what I guess you would call a wisp that you can see through. Looks like just smoke. Then you have the darker ones that you can't see through, and the block out light. And that's some of the things that this couple had. Was they had a really tall one that would walk across a certain window and block out the light and just look at them and then keep walking.
It's amazing. I've seen things like that. Different shapes, different sizes.
Yep.
And then when you add the voice to it, it's a whole different dimension. And the reason I brought it back to what we're going to see right now, because you mentioned something about paranormal enthusiasts.
Mhm.
And then I talked about people who perhaps when they're by themselves in their most inner thoughts, I think it's a high percentage they're actually believers, but you're just trying to block it out so they can live their life normal and not really think about these things. Because
Right.
seeing is believing, my friend. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna bring up one of these videos for those who are enthusiasts out there, and I'm gonna bring this one because it caught my attention. And I'm gonna bring it up right now, my friend. You go ahead and guide us through this one. And this is be the one with the light coming on and off. Right here.
Okay. Now that light, you can see on it. It's a switch. You have to actually press a switch to turn it on and off. So I have another clip where and it's a different timestamp where that it turns off, and it's not on a timer. It's not on this. It's not on that. But it's boop, it just comes on and off. But I think what they do is they like attention. They know that camera's there. You're not catching them. You've not set a mouse trap and you've caught the shadow being, like an aha moment. No, They know you're there. They know the camera's there, and they're just bored or whatever, and they are absolutely messing with you.
Yep, and I'm gonna play it one more time because it's very good piece of evidence we have here. So you see that, and it's almost like the brightness dims and comes gets bright again, which is unusual for a lamp. This is the brownout. I'm not seeing where this is a case
Yes.
of a brownout. Wow. And then going into shadows themselves, let's bring this one up, which this one's got some pretty amazing footage as well. And right off the bat,
Now, if you'll notice, that's the one that slowed down. Uh, the entity, the shadow person, is trying to. It doesn't have enough juice. It's trying to spiral up out of the ground, out of the floor. Um, but if you'll notice, it raises up, and you can see its back and things as well. Then it'll when it finally does manifest, it actually turns. If you're looking at the screen, it will turn toward the right like a sprinter and takes off and walks all the way around the room.
yep, I see it trying to get up.
No, and then watch this. It takes you 2 or 3 times. See that back? See its back? Boom! It makes it. Then watch all the way to the right of your screen. Watch it walk across. It'll block out the light. You'll see
Yeah,
it just. And it's 1 o'clock. It's almost. It's 12:50. If this is the one 12:50 something, almost 1 o'clock of the day. Okay, and you can see it's daylight out. I went back and looked at the weather that day. I went, I looked at all the different things that it could be. Um, there's no way the way the house sits and it's daylight. There's no way that a light shone through there and done all that directly like uh, the static cam, security cam, is only about 3 or 4 feet from the back wall and window, which has heavy drapes over it. Okay. Now, if I to replicate, how are you going to replicate that? If I put a big spotlight, we'll say I'm a nefarious person wanting likes or something on my page. How are you going to fake that? If you put a big bright light behind him, you're going to see that it's going to be all over the wall. You're not gonna be able to just zoom it in on something and a person and have them walk around. There's not enough room.
no, especially not in this room. Now, I
There's
paused it
not
here
enough.
for a reason
Yes,
because the way it looks to me, my eyes, it looks like somebody's trying to take a running start,
exactly,
and then
exactly.
like look.
Mhm.
So now I paused it right here. So if you look at it, like right there, it goes back.
Yes, and
It
turns.
tries,
You'll see it turn to its right.
mhm, and then it kind of went off to the races.
Yes,
That is
absolutely. That's
that is
crazy, isn't it?
it is the craziest thing I've seen in a long time. But it's like almost like if it's like getting ready to go, and then it hits, and then it goes almost
Right.
a quarter of the
It
way
didn't
through the
have
room.
it didn't have enough juice the first couple of times. So that there we go back to how come? Well, there's not enough, it hadn't manifested enough energy yet. So it's pulling in energy and it finally like a cork pops up and takes and like gets the door open, so to speak, and walks around. But directly under that almost is a well. See, they built the house over top of the well so the lines wouldn't freeze, you know. Um, And when we investigated it, and uh, a gentleman that with a lot of experience in construction and, and electricity, and build houses and do this that. And I'm still a skeptic too. I mean, I try to debunk it from the word go because I don't want to put out anything that I've not ran through the mill, so to speak. Uh, and he's not and I like skeptics. I like analytical, logical skeptics, not people that just want to argue. You
Right.
know, because skepticism is a good thing. That's how that we get to, we can explain things, and we might come upon something that, uh, well, there's a lot of EMF over here. Did that help it manifest? Because nobody's in that house. Nobody. Zip. Those are security cams to alert them if someone breaks in. That's what those are. They made $0. The family made $0. Ask me for $0. They just wanted to help. They just wanted to try to figure it out.
And that's definitely says something a lot about them because, as you know, when you hit that rabbit hole on YouTube and you start seeing this evidence videos all day long, you're like, oh, really? And whether they're for the clickbait or trying to get something out of it,
Clickbait. Right.
yeah. But and then we have one more here to show, and I haven't seen this one as many times as the other one because I really got caught up with let me remove this one. Here's my professionalism. I'm gonna add this to the stage, and here we go. Right, something shifted their colors
Yep. You'll
on the
see it.
lower part. I'm gonna try it again. I'm sorry about that because I was a little
That's
bit.
okay. It happens more toward the front of the video. It's really quick.
Let me go back then. And right about here on the lower part of the picture, it seems like the colors kind of come and go, or something happens to where there's movement.
The movement comes.
Right about there. I'll do it right more time, but
Let me try something here.
because I see the movement
No,
right about.
that's the MP4 one. Let's see. I will email you the move file. Let's see. Clip two. Boom.
Let me go back one more time. Just let it play. Now, this being in the same house, is this within the course of the same day, or is this different times of a week or a month?
I'd have to look at the thing. Some of it happened the same day. Some of them happened like weeks apart or maybe months apart.
Okay, yeah, it's because the timestamp's kind of hidden from me a little bit here, but
let's see.
but yeah, no, I mean, we got a couple of good things there. And there's no doubt, especially on the one in the basement where that shadow figure takes that running start. If that one doesn't pique anybody's interest, nothing else is going to, my friend.
That's right. Let me see if I can get this.
All right, so that was just a quick pause because we were watching the video earlier, the Shadow Man clip, same angle, but this one that you just sent me. Now it took a while because sometimes I have a lot of issues receiving emails. If it doesn't like what it sees, it puts it straight in a junk file.
Well,
But
also the
I think I
shadow.
know why.
If you'll notice, if you'll notice that certain things you talk about, certain things don't want you talking about them, and you will have electronic issues, and I can't explain it.
Well, it worked out to our advantage today. Thankfully. Here we I'm all right, prepare yourself, people, because this is something else. Talk about a running start. It's just kind of like whoosh. Um, putting this right now. And I'm gonna rewind it. And then here we go. Boom.
Boom.
All right, let it play. I'm gonna play it one more time. It almost looked like the size of a like a 3 or 4 foot tall child, but it was very short. But as it kept going, it kept getting a little bit bigger. And I'm sure it would have been full size had he kept if the whole frame been captured. It would have
Hmm.
been probably a lot taller than 4 feet. But I'm going back and then I'm gonna try to pause the best I can once I see.
I would say you're about right on that because in that the way that everything's laying out, that's about 3.5, 4 feet.
Yep, here
And
we go. No, go ahead. I paused it
uh,
right there.
and let's go back to the other location where we're seeing the shadow person. Uh, whenever it morphed uh, into the from the little person type entity to the shadow person entity, it looks directly at the dang um, static cam. Looks dead ass into it. Excuse my language, but it looks dead into it, like it's like, hey, check this out, and it goes up and into the house. Looks straight at the camera.
Yep, and this one had a very so I paused it right before between the door and that window.
Hmm.
You see it because it started towards that back well, I call it back wall, that wall that's where the right next to that open door as it was getting a running start. Then it sprints off, it gets larger, which brings us to right before it goes out that window. So from the sprint, which starts right about here,
Hmm.
same characteristics as the other video
Yes.
where it gets bigger and then just darts off, and then boom, there he goes out. Or it, I don't know he or she, but it
I
darted
often
out.
wonder that too.
But yeah, my now that last one you sent me,
Hmm.
that video, for those out there that are on the fence about what we're talking about or your research, your investigations, that would be the word, the coup de grace, as they would say. But then you one up me again. And you send me something. Now, let's talk about this particular thing that was seen outside the house, this leaf. And
Yeah. Uh, Right.
you can look at clouds
Right.
and
Paranoia.
you might
Right.
see a rabbit or a dragon, or you might see whatever, but you're never going to see a leaf that looks like this. And
They were moving into the family was moving either back into the house that they went to when they left the one where they caught the video footage, or they were moving back in because they came back and moved back in this house, and I forget which one. But it was an omen. They said when they opened the door, all of a sudden the wind kicked up and blew that in, and just right in front of them. It kind of blows by and rolls up, and boom, there it is. And that's the
yeah,
only
but
one.
it's
But
plain as day.
it's the only one that blew in the house.
It's a what do they call it? A bad omen or a message of some sort.
But
Obviously, now,
must
well,
be. But I
I
know
would
people
be.
try to
Let me
say it's
ask.
paranoia, but
Yeah,
now I see a skull, but you know,
I know what. It's not one of those ink blots. You see a butterfly or a bat or a
no,
splat.
it's not an ink blot. It's not like back in the day when you had your handy cam was all pixelated out and you were seeing all sorts of crazy crap there, but it's just pixelated out. Um,
Yeah, and you don't even have to cross your eyes or squint. It's right in front of your face. Let me ask you this.
right.
It wouldn't be me if I didn't ask. Did they keep that leaf? Where is it?
I don't think they might have kept it for a while. I asked that question, but I couldn't get a hold of it. But I will ask again. I don't think they would lie to me. I think they would have given it up if it may have scared them so dang bad. But I'll dive more deeply into the story on the leaf and what they thought and where it's at or what they did with it. And it could have scared them, and they like chunked it.
It's like receiving a dead fish through the mail. I think it stinks. So you got to go.
So that's I thought that was unusual. We'll call it an unusual coincidence, because what is the statistic probability of you having all this activity, and then you're moving back into the house, and random wind comes up, one leaf blows into your past your threshold and just rolls and flips up on its, we're like that. You're seeing a skull. What is
Out of all the leaves, yep.
what is the statistical probability of that? And that's what I look at a lot of times. Yes, there are coincidences. Yes, probably 80% or better of activity can be explained away. No doubt, no doubt. But boy, isn't that 80, 10 or 20%? Isn't that interesting? Very interesting.
Well, that 20% is 100% for them. But my goodness, we can. I underestimate it. No, I wouldn't say underestimate it. You have an awful lot of things. Just what you have now, you can make a whole film out of it. Just as a story with the shadow people, with this footage. Now, I know we're coming close on the time, and I know you talked about it earlier on the show. What's your next project? What are you working on now? I know you're going to go out there and see some mounds, but I know you have a film
Mounds.
you might be working.
The Shadow File series. I'm going to do a Shadow File series. It's not necessarily just going to be about shadow people, but it's going to be about just the unexplained things. It'll be in dovetailed with Thomas. What Tom and I are doing with TCC, but we will hit a lot more probably on the shadow folks and stuff like that. But that's I'm starting to interview people. Gosh, with everything from Bigfoot sightings, a ton of shadow person sightings, a ton of shadow people stories, and just kind of go that direction for a little bit.
All right, what a direction we shall go, my friend. Now, for our good friends, listeners of Let's Find Out, that want to know more about your work, learn more about TCC, and what you're going to be doing next, where can they go find out?
They can check out Tom's site, the cryptocrew.com or TCC Research. He has way more vids up than I do. It's a great place for tons of good information. If you want to see more about, I'm doing a lot of stories now on TikTok, so you can check me out at Haunted Harlan County / Appalachian History Mysteries on TikTok. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. It really helps the algorithms. People don't realize how much that does help get you into a better algorithm. Don't have a lot of stuff going on with YouTube right now, because YouTube, there's so many hoops you have to jump through and all this stuff. I like dealing more with the reels, and I will deal with the reels and stuff like that. But I seem to get better traction from TikTok. And if you happen to be in the Harlan County area, we will be doing several ghost walks. They're basically historical / ghost walks the month of October. So if you're close by here, go on to visit Harlan County's website, and you'll see the dates. And actually, I'm going up tomorrow to meet with some folks try to help them get their stuff off the ground with ghost walks and things. But there's tons to do in Harlan County as far as the paranormal and historical. We have everything from, if you just want to come here during the fall and look at the colors, that's great. We to the historical aspect, you have the mine wars, which I do true crime. Well, we do a bunch on true crime as well. So we're just kind of anything interesting. We're probably involved in it.
And we'll definitely have you back to talk about these things, because
it'd be great.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be great. And I know that there's so much more to share. Tony, my friend, thank you for coming back on Let's Find Out, and I'll
Thank
see
you
you
for
on the next
having
one.
me.
Of course,
Yes, sir.
anytime, brother.
Absolutely.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.